All right, welcome back to day two of Valuable Physical Education. We're talking with Miss Angela McNamara in this interview. Today's episode, she's going to tell us a little bit about how she likes to develop her lessons and units, and also some tips about class management and what she likes to do. Hope you're enjoying this series. Yesterday's talk was a little bit about her philosophy and the importance of physical education and why she started out in this field. So if you missed that one, go back, take a listen. But if not, enough of me talking. Let's get to the interview.
Yeah, and to continue with philosophy, coach, it seems to me that you're teaching currently fifth through eighth, and there's a lot of ways to build a unit. Again, it's not right or wrong. It's kind of how you want to, make your salad, for lack of a better term, however you want to do it. But I was curious, what's your philosophy on, when you build a unit, do you do a lot of station work at first? Like if you're doing a soccer unit, let's say, or do you let the kids kind of play and you evaluate them and then you get them into modified 3-on-3 games pretty quickly or 4-on-4? Or do you just get them playing right away? And again, no right or wrong, just wanted to see your philosophy on that.
Yeah, I've always been a fan of just like you said, like station work, learning the fundamentals, even the kids who are already advanced. I think there's no harm in practicing, and those kids who are already advanced can obviously be leaders and help out the other ones. But I always like to kind of start there. Depending on the age, I won't spend too much time doing that. The older kids who have already played that sport multiple times, multiple years, will get into gameplay pretty quick. I do really love the sport education model. That's probably my favorite way to teach team sports. And so I will often use that when we get into gameplay. So.
Now, what does that look like for somebody who's maybe starting out and is trying to build a unit around sports? Again, maybe kind of pen and paper. What would it look like for maybe the first week of the unit, and then kind of briefly where it goes from there?
Yeah. Are you talking specifically with that sport education model or just in general?
Yeah. Again, how would you write it out so that, again, maybe if maybe a long-term sub who's new to PE is coming in, but can follow it and kind of knows what they're doing a little bit, not just a typical sub day, but just maybe for new teachers who are listening, or teachers who are looking just for a better way to organize themselves.
Yeah, totally. So for if we were doing basketball, for example, I would probably spend the first week. And again, this is if we're meeting every day. But I'd probably spend about the first week really just covering the basics, introducing the sport. Depending on the age group, again, if the older kids, I might not spend a ton of time on the very basic skills, but we would spend time on basics, maybe some modified gameplay, and starting to talk about strategy and that sort of thing. I do want to get them into gameplay as quick as possible, because we know that most kids, that's where they want to be. That's what they enjoy. So probably, if I were going to spend a month on a unit, I would probably try to only just spend about a week and then assess, are we ready to play? Or do I have enough kids who are ready? Because, oftentimes they'll be the standouts. They'll be like the handful of kids who are ready to go the first day. But, you want to make sure you get everybody else up to speed and feel comfortable and enjoy themselves. So, yeah. And then when we get into gameplay, I like using the sport education model because, well, one, if you have a small space, which Miles and I, often we have to contend with spaces that aren't quite big enough for our class sizes. And so I always hate having a bunch of kids on the sideline. Like I hate seeing kids just sitting out. It's not fun, right? So I like to use this model because it just gives everybody a job. So, someone would be the coach, or there would be a coach for each team. There would be a couple of referees. There would be a statistician or a scorekeeper. And, depending on how many extra kids you have, you can fill out the jobs. But I like doing it that way because it also, not only does it give people jobs, but it also allows kids to be a part of the sport, maybe if they are not like the most confident in that sport. So it's teaching them that it takes a lot of people to make a game run, and you can maybe love a sport and find different ways to get involved. You don't have to be, an elite athlete. You can be a scorekeeper, or you can be the team manager or whatever. So.
Yeah, for all you inspiring PE teachers out there that are watching this, when you go through your BITSA, and you'll learn all about that through your curriculum and getting your certified credential, that is a perfect example of how to utilize a classroom. And when you're getting certified by a principal or your certification specialist, they will love when you do exactly what Coach said there, having someone keeping score, having someone be a coach, have someone be a ref, because your full class is engaged. And it's different ways of sports. That's a great example you gave. And for you young PE teachers out there, do it. That's a great way to do it. And you can do it for multiple sports. And then to pivot on that, Coach, we talked a little bit about classroom management. It seems like you're working with middle school, and every age has its joys and every age has its potential challenges. What is maybe a trick up your sleeve that you do with classroom management that just gets your students hooked and engaged right away in PE?
Yeah. Well, I'm really a fan of structure. I'm really a fan of, at the beginning, kind of building in the routines for them. They know where to sit or stand. They know where to line up. They know where to look. Kind of going to the same place every day. And so I try to establish that like right away at the beginning of the year. Another thing that I like to do, it took me a minute to learn this. I didn't do this at first. Especially so when I'm introducing a new game, or sport or something, and we're trying to get into it, I actually like to put the kids, split them into their teams, and actually get them out onto the plane, into the playing space and into their positions before I start explaining things, because I think it helps like the visual learners understand. They can look around and see, oh, okay, that's where the goal is. That's, this is where I need to be on the field and that sort of thing. Versus just having them all kind of like sitting in their lines or wherever and trying to explain. So that's something I picked up along the way.
Yeah. You mentioned, us having kind of some small spaces, and I know in talking with you before at your past school, you had some small spaces. I know at College Prep at our old site, we had a small blackout space. So, I think all PE teachers probably at some point are limited to their space. Whether that's San Diego, probably a rainy day limits anybody to a smaller space. How do you go about, normally PE, we end up with some bigger class sizes. How do you like to try and manage, a larger class when you have a smaller space? If you're playing basketball, you got 10 kids playing, and, you laid out 4 or 5 jobs, but now you still have another, 15 kids. What do you like to have them doing in order to kind of keep everybody active and engaged?
Yeah. Well, sometimes, you have to get super creative, right? I've definitely played around with different things. At my old school, I also just had a blacktop, and I remember at one point I just kind of changed up the equipment to try to get more kids. I think we were doing soccer, and I wanted to try to have 2 games going, but it was such a small space. So instead of using regular soccer balls, I actually bought some foam balls, which is kind of funny because, there's 8th graders out there kicking a foam ball around, but we were able to kind of make it, the playing areas were super small, and also we didn't have to worry about a kid getting knocked in the face, with a regular soccer ball. And it ended up being really fun for them. They really enjoyed it. So that's one thing I think you can, trying to squeeze in multiple games if possible. And if you have to adjust or modify your equipment to keep it safe. And then, well, Miles, sometimes also if you're really short on space, like in your basketball example, I also would maybe just have some, like, if I have 15 kids standing out left over, I might just assign them exercises to do off on the side. Like, here's a whiteboard, you complete this workout while they're playing the game, and then we'll swap. And so that's always a good thing. That just keeps everybody moving and active and busy. So yeah. Creativity.
Well, Coach, I'm very impressed. I think for me as an educator, it fires me up talking to other PE teachers, and I think we're all kind of cut from the same cloth, and we're more similar than different. And to me, as a PE teacher, I just get excited when I hear PE teachers talking about engagement all the time, everyone moving, not a lot of standing, and that fires me up. And that's a good example. Like, sometimes you don't have the equipment or the space, but it's like, all right, you guys go over there and do some jump roping or some jumping jacks. And I think that's a great example. And I think it sets a tone and a standard for your school and your class, that it's like, hey, we're working out. It could be fun, but we're getting after it. You mentioned you're obviously, which is great, a very structured teacher. You're into the fundamentals, and you talked about that us humans, we're into routines. And you talked about routines. Can you give a specific maybe routines that you have your students do to create that classroom management, whether they have them walk in line, or you have them sit on numbers to take attendance, whether they run laps a certain time, any like routines and classroom managements that you do?
Well, I can speak to when I was working K through 8 elementary. I think elementary, that level, it's routines and cues and all of that are super important, especially for the little ones. So I would definitely actually, practice for the first couple of weeks of school. I would teach kids my cues, whether it's like freeze on a whistle, or I had different call and response things that I would do with them to, get them to stop right away. And I would always explain how important it is, because if I need to get your attention, if it's a safety thing, you have to stop and listen and be ready to hear these cues. So anyway, with the little ones, I would actually have them literally practice it. I would have them run around and blow the whistle and practice running in. I definitely am a fan, or I was a fan for the elementary kids. My old blacktop, I would have spots, and they would have a spot that they were assigned to. I've also enjoyed, I'm a fan of the old school, the squads, the line, you're just assigned to a line, you come out, exactly where you're supposed to go. So yeah, and it works in middle school too. Having them assigned to a line, and they know kind of where to stand. And then that's where we do our warm-ups and our stretching before we get going for the day. I've also used you can get creative. I've used poly spots or colored cones. And so at the beginning of the year, the kids know okay, I line up behind this color cone. And then that way, if we are moving to different spaces, I just throw out the cones, and then they just figure out, there's my cone, I'm going to go line up. So I think those kinds of things help to keep things running smoothly.
All right, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. She gave us some great detail in how to build a unit, some classroom management techniques, how to make lessons. She's a great teacher, doing a great job, letting us know some good, solid information. Tomorrow, we're going to continue our interview with Miss McNamara, and she's going to talk to us a little bit about some of her experience at charter schools versus private schools, and then also looking some at fundraising and what that looks like. And then we'll kind of take a jump back into something that, would have maybe fit in today, but we want to come revisit really what her favorite lessons are to teach. And it kind of harkens back to the fundraising, because if you have a unit you really want to do and you don't have a budget for it, you need to find a way to make it happen. It'll help you as a teacher going forward. So anyways, hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. We look forward to having you back again tomorrow. Follow us on Instagram at Valuable Coaching. Subscribe to us on YouTube at Valuable Coaching, and listen to us on podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcasts, and subscribe so you can hear the content that we have coming out. I want to thank our sponsor, One Stone Apparel. They do great physical education clothes. They made us this great polo for Valuable Coaching, and they do awesome vocabulary tees, perfect for physical education. They got great words on the back. You can customize them. Great artwork, easy to work with. Dave at One Stone Apparel. Check them out, onestoneapparel.com.